Hey followers and fans, how are you doing today guys? It's Professor Suresh, delighted to be back for my 41st video in pipeline for publication on YouTube today, 7th of July 2020. Topic for discussion today is health benefits of edible nuts consumption. A nut is a hard-shelled fruit of some plants. They are an important part of human and animal diets. Many dried seeds and fruits are called nuts in English, but only some are nuts to a botanist. Nuts are made of the seed and the fruit, where the fruit does not open to release a seed. Most seeds come from fruits and the seeds are released from the fruit. But nuts such as hazelnuts, hickories, chestnuts and acorns have a stony fruit wall which keeps the seed inside. In common speaking, many so-called nuts like pistachios and Brazil nuts are not nuts in a biological sense. Everyday common usage of the term often refers to any hard-walled edible kernel as a nut. A nut in botany is a simple dry fruit with one seed, rarely two. The ovary wall is hard, stony or woody when it matures, and the seed is stuck to the ovary wall. In cuisine, a nut is a fruit composed of an edible hard shell and a seed which is generally edible. In general usage, a wide variety of dried seeds are called nuts. But in botanical context, nut implies that the shell does not open to release a seed. Indehiscent. The translation of nut in certain languages frequently requires paraphrases as the word is ambiguous. Most seeds come from fruits that naturally free themselves from the shell, unlike nuts such as hazelnuts, chestnuts, and acorns, which have hard shell walls and originate from a compound ovary. The general and original usage of the term is less restrictive, and many nuts in the culinary sense such as almonds, pecans, pistachios, walnuts and Brazil nuts are not nuts in a botanical sense. Common usage of the term often refers to any hard-walled edible kernel as a nut. Nuts are an energy-dense and nutrient-rich food source. A nut in botany is a simple dry fruit in which the ovary wall becomes increasingly hard as it matures, and where the seed remains unattached or free within the ovary wall. Most nuts come from pistils with inferior ovaries, and all are indehiscent, not opening at maturity. A small nut may be called a nutlet or a nupule, a term otherwise referring to the ogonium of stonewoods. In botany, the term nutlet specifically refers to a pyrene, which is a seed covered by a stony layer such as a kernel or a drupe. Walnuts and hickories, juglandaceae, have fruits that are difficult to classify. They are considered to be nuts under some definitions, but are also referred to as drupaceous nuts. Tryma is a specialized term for hickory fruits. In common use, a tree nut is, as the name implies, any nut coming from a tree. This most often comes up regarding food allergies. A person may be allergic specifically to peanuts, which are not tree nuts but legumes, whereas others may be allergic to the wider range of nuts that grow in trees. Dry nuts are dry edible fruits or seeds that usually but not always have a high fat content. A nut in cuisine is a much less restrictive and older meaning of the word than the narrow meaning of nut in botany. The term is applied to many seeds that are not botanically nuts. Any large oily kernels found within a shell and used in food are commonly called nuts. By definition, tree nuts are dry fruits with one seed in which the ovary wall becomes hard at maturity. The most popular tree nuts, edible tree nuts, are almonds, prunes, amygdalis, hazelnuts, Coryllius avellana, walnuts, juglans regia, and pistachios, Pistachia vera. These are the botanical names I am mentioning, other than the common names. Other common edible nuts are pine nuts, Pinus pini, cashews, anacardium, occidental, pecans, caria, Illinois, enensis, macadamia integrifolia, and Brazil nuts, Bertholita excelsa. The consumer definition also includes peanuts, archaeus, hypogae, which botanically are ground nuts or legumes but are widely identified as part of the nuts food group. In addition, peanuts have a similar nutrient profile to tree nuts. Peanuts. Although chestnuts, Castanea sativa, are tree nuts as well, they are different from all other common nuts because of being starchier and having a different nutrient profile. For the purpose of this review, the term nuts includes all common tree nuts with the exception of chestnuts plus peanuts. Nuts are an important source of nutrients for both humans as well as wildlife. Because nuts generally have high oil content, they are a highly prized food and energy source. Many seeds are edible by humans and used in cooking, eaten raw, sprouted, or roasted as a snack food, or pressed for oil that is used in cookery and cosmetics. Therapeutics also. Nuts used for food, whether true nut or not, are among the most common food allergens. Some fruits and seeds that do not meet the botanical definition but are nuts in the culinary sense. Types of nuts includes the oak, hickory, chestnut, stone oak, birch, and hazelnut. The peanut, coconut, almond, macadamia, pistachio, pecan, walnut, and cashew are not true nuts. Nuts are the source of energy and nutrients for the new plant. They contain a relatively large quantity of calories, essential unsaturated and monosaturated fats, including linoleic acid and linoleic acid, vitamins, and essential amino acids. Many nuts are good sources of vitamin E, vitamin B2, folate, fiber, and essential minerals such as magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, copper, and selenium. Some common culinary nuts including hazelnuts, which are also botanical nuts, hazelnuts, which are not botanical nuts but rather seeds, are cashew, walnuts, pecans, and almonds, all three of which are not botanical nuts but rather the seeds of fruits. Nuts, seeds, and pulses are all nutrient-dense foods and have been a regular constituent of mankind's diet since pre-agricultural times. In Western countries, nuts are consumed as snacks, desserts, or part of a meal and are eaten whole, fresh or roasted, in spreads, peanut butter, almond paste, as oils, or hidden in commercial products, mixed dishes, sauces, pastries, ice creams, and baked goods. In the last century, nut consumption in most industrialized nations followed a downward trend to become only a marginal source of energy in the daily diet, except for vegetarians and other health-conscious populations such as Seventh-day Adventists. Nut consumption has increased in recent times in Western countries following both the inclusion of this food group in many guidelines for healthy eating and wide media coverage of recent evidence connecting nut consumption to a wide range of health benefits. Thus, nuts have been proposed as an important component of optimal diets for the prevention of coronary heart disease (CHD) by leading experts in the field, and in the summer of 2003, the US Food and Drug Administration (FDA) issued a health claim for nuts because of the link between nut consumption and a reduced risk of both CHD, coronary heart disease, and intermediate biomarkers such as blood cholesterol. Since then, nuts have become an indispensable component of healthy diets and are included in the American Heart Association shortly AHA dietary metrics for defining ideal cardiovascular health in the recent report on setting goals for health promotion and disease reduction for 2020. This is the 2020. Nuts are clearly nutrient dense foods, with the exception of chestnuts, which contains little fat, Nuts have a high total fat content ranging from 46% in cashews and pistachios to 76% in macadamia nuts, and they provide 20 to 30 kilojoules per gram. Thus, nuts are one of the natural plant foods richest in fat after vegetable oils. However, the fatty acid composition of nuts is beneficial because the saturated fatty acid, shortly SFA, content is low, 4 to 16%, and nearly half of the total fat content is made up of unsaturated fat. Monounsaturated fatty acids, shortly MUFA, folic acid in most nuts, similar proportions of MUFA, and polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFA, mostly linoleic acid in Brazil nuts, a predominance of PUFA over MUFA in pine nuts, and mostly PUFA, both linoleic acid and linoleic acid, the plant omega-3 fatty acid in walnuts. With regard to walnuts, it must be underlined that they are a whole food with the highest content in ALA and of all edible plants. The particular lipid profile of nuts in general and walnuts in particular is likely to be an important contributor to the beneficial health effects of frequent nut consumption. Nuts are also rich sources of other bioactive macronutrients that have the potential to beneficially affect metabolic and cardiovascular outcomes. They are an excellent source of protein, approximately 25% of energy, and often have a high content of L-arginine, as this amino acid is a precursor of the endogenous vasodilator nitric oxide NO. But nut intake might help improve vascular reactivity. Nuts are also a good source of dietary fiber, which ranges from 4 to 11 grams per 100 grams, and in standard servings provide 5 to 10% of daily fiber requirements. Among the constituents of nuts, there are significant amounts of essential micronutrients that are associated with an improved health status when consumed at doses beyond those necessary to prevent deficiency states. Nuts contain seasonal amounts of folate, a B vitamin necessary for normal cellular function, that plays an important role in detoxifying homocysteine, the sulfur containing amino acid with atherothrombotic properties that accumulates in plasma when folate status is subnormal. Nuts are also rich sources of antioxidant vitamins. Example, tocopherols and phenolic compounds necessary to protect the germ from oxidative stress and preserve the reproductive potential of the seed, but also bioavailable after consumption and capable of providing a significant antioxidant load. Almonds in particular are especially rich in tocopherol, while walnuts contain significant amounts of its isomer G-tocopherol, which has been investigated much less than tocopherol than A-tocopherol, but is increasingly recognized as a relevant anti-atherogenic molecule. Remarkably, in all nuts, most of the antioxidants are located in the pellicle or outer soft shell, as shown for almonds and peanuts, and 50% or more of them are lost when the skin is removed. Bleaching of nuts when the hard shells are cracked, as it occurs naturally in pistachios, also destroys most of the antioxidants. Interestingly, roasting of almonds preserves the phenolic compounds better than blanching. These facts, rarely taken into consideration in prior studies, with nuts, should not be overlooked when giving advice on nuts intake in healthy diets. Walnuts are an exception because they are almost always consumed as a raw, unpeeled product. Nuts, tree nuts and peanuts are nutrient-dense foods with complex matrices rich in unsaturated fatty and other bioactive compounds. High-quality vegetable protein, fiber, minerals, tocopherols, phytosterols, and phenolic compounds. By virtue of the unique composition, nuts are likely to beneficially impact health outcomes. Nuts are cholesterol-free, but the fatty fraction contains seizable amounts of chemically related non-cholesterol sterols belonging to a heterogeneous group of compounds known as plant sterols or phytosterols. They are non-nutritive components of all plants that play an important structural role in membranes, where they serve to stabilize phospholipid bilayers such as cholesterol does in animal cell membranes. Phytosterols interfere with the cholesterol absorption and thus help lower blood cholesterol when present in sufficient amounts in the intestinal lumen. The mechanism of action of phytosterols has been linked to the hydrophobicity, which is higher than cholesterol because of a bulkier hydrocarbon molecule and entails a higher affinity for micelles than has cholesterol. Consequently, cholesterol is displaced from micelles and the amount available for absorption is limited. In all probability, the phytosterol content of nuts contributes to their cholesterol lowering effect. Compared to other common foods, nuts have optimal nutritional density with respect to healthy minerals such as calcium, magnesium, and potassium. Like that of most vegetables, the sodium content of raw or roasted but otherwise unprocessed nuts is very low, ranging from undetectable in hazelnuts to 18 milligrams per 100 grams in peanuts. A high intake of calcium, magnesium, and potassium, together with a low sodium intake, is associated with the protection against bone demineralization, arterial hypertension, insulin resistance, and overall cardiovascular risk. Obviously, the advantage of low sodium content of nuts is lost if they are consumed as a salted product. Epidemiologic studies have associated nut consumption with a reduced incidence of coronary heart disease and gallstones in both genders and diabetes in women. Limited evidence also suggests beneficial effects on hypertension, cancer, and inflammation. Interventional studies consistently show that nut intake has a cholesterol lowering effect, even in the context of healthy diets, and there is emerging evidence of beneficial effects on oxidative stress, inflammation, and vascular reactivity. Blood pressure, visceral adiposity, and the metabolic syndrome also appear to be positively influenced by nut consumption. Thus, it is clear that nuts have a beneficial impact on many cardiovascular risk factors. Contrary to expectations, epidemiologic studies and clinical trials suggest that regular nut consumption is unlikely to contribute to obesity and may even help in weight loss. Safety concerns are limited to the infrequent occurrence of nut allergy in children. Since inflammation is a key process in atherogenesis, one mechanism by which nut consumption may decrease cardio-CHT risk is by improving inflammatory status, which can be ascertained from levels of circulating inflammatory markers. Nuts are an integral part of the Mediterranean food patterns, and their incorporation into the regular diets of human beings is believed to provide many health benefits. The recent recognition of nuts as heart-healthy foods by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA) has given a major boost by the positive image of nuts. Nut consumption has been associated with several health benefits such as antioxidant, hypocholesterolemic, cardioprotective, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, and anti-diabetic benefits, among other functional properties. However, although nuts possess these many health benefits, their consumption has been hampered by a lack of adequate information regarding those benefits. In addition, because nuts are energy-dense foods with high fat content, there is a misconception among consumers that increased consumption may lead to unwanted gain in body weight, with the risk of developing overweight obesity. Nonetheless, available epidemiologic studies and short-term controlled feeding trials have supported the theory that the inclusion of nuts in the typical diet does not induce weight gain, despite an expected increase in total caloric intake. Now let me move on to micronutrients. First one is folate, vitamin B9, required for DNA synthesis, assists red blood cell production, prevents neural tube defects. Folic acid found in supplements and fortified food is more readily absorbed than naturally occurring foliate. Peanut is one of the sources. Vitamin E, antioxidant in cell membrane, supports normal nerve function, augments functional activity of immune cells. Almonds, hazelnuts, and peanuts are some sources. Vitamin K assists in blood clotting, modify certain proteins to allow for calcium binding. Cashew nut is one of the sources. Calcium, structural component of bones and teeth, required for proper nerve transmission and muscle contraction, influences blood vessel constriction and dilation, and may reduce blood pressure. Almond is one of the sources. Copper assists in energy production and iron utilization, assists in neurotransmitter synthesis, maintains integrity of connective tissue, assists antioxidant enzymes. Cashew nut is one of the sources. Sixth one, iron, component of hundreds of enzymes needed for synthesis of hemoglobin, assists antioxidant enzymes required for synthesis of DNA, amino acids, collagen, neurotransmitters, and certain hormones, and critical for normal immune function. Cashew nut is one of the sources. Magnesium, structural component of bones, assists in hundreds of enzyme reactions involved in the synthesis of DNA and proteins required for proper nerve conduction and muscle contraction. Almonds and cashew nuts are some of the sources. Manganese, component of antioxidant enzymes, facilitates bone development, helps make and break down glucose and proteins. Almonds is one of the sources. Molybdenum assists in the metabolism of proteins, DNA, drugs and toxins, generally in all nuts available. 10. Phosphorus, energy production and storage. Almonds and peanuts are some of the sources. 11. Selenium, component of antioxidant enzymes, influences thyroid hormone function. Brazil nut is one of the sources. 12th one, zinc, assists in hundreds of enzyme reactions, assists in hemoglobin production, assists antioxidant enzymes, supports immune function and increases the body immunity resistance, and prescribed even for pandemic novel COVID-19. Cashew nut, peanut and almonds are some of the sources of zinc. On the basis of the high fat content of nuts, they are traditionally considered as foods that provide a high amount of energy. However, epidemiologic and clinical observations do not indicate an association between nuts intake and and increased body mass index, shortly BMI. There is a notorious variability in macronutrient composition among nuts, although they have some consistent patterns. Nuts contain all major macronutrients: protein, carbohydrate and fat. The total protein content is relatively high, which makes them a good source of plant protein, especially for vegetarians. Although nuts contain low amounts of some essential amino acids, this is not a nutritional concern due to the complement of protein. In addition, nuts have a low lysine-arginine ratio, which is inversely associated with the risk of developing hypercholesterolemia and atherosclerosis. Carbohydrates are the second highest macronutrient in nuts in terms of total calories provided. The fat fraction is characterized by a high amount of unsaturated fatty acids and a low content of saturated fatty acids. In conclusion, the high content in unsaturated fatty acids, a low lysine-arginine ratio, and the presence of other bioactive molecules such as fiber, phytosterols, vitamin and other antioxidants and minerals make the addition of nuts to healthy diets a useful tool for the prevention of cardiovascular heart diseases, shortly CHD. With today's busy lifestyles, nuts are a convenient, tasty and easy snack that contributes to a healthy lifestyle. In addition to the tastiness, tree nuts and peanuts are both cholesterol free and rich in important nutrients, including vegetable protein, fiber and unsaturated fatty acids. They also contain relevant micronutrients such as folic acid, niacin and vitamin C and B6, and minerals such as magnesium, copper, zinc, selenium, phosphorus and potassium. Nuts are part of the US Food Guide Pyramid and Mediterranean Diet Pyramids. The experts recommend eating a wide variety of fruits from the 5 food groups every day in order to obtain the nutrients you need. Nuts fall into the meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, eggs and nut group and can be eaten every day. The recommended number of servings from this group is 2 to 3 per day. 1/3 of a cup of nuts or 2 tablespoons of peanut butter contain the same energy as a 1 ounce serving of cooked lean meat. Nuts also have a low water content with the water activity between 0 to 0.6 and 0.7. While the low water content of nut helps to preserve them for long periods of time, the high unsaturated fat content improves the chances of becoming rancid, acidic, especially during roasting, and this leads to a loss of flavor during storage. Since nuts are high in fat and therefore energy dense, consumers regard them as fattening foods. However, while they are rich in energy, they are also rich in many healthful nutrients such as unsaturated fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, and non-nutrients such as phytosterols and a host of phytochemicals that are health promoting benefits to humans. The total protein content of some nuts is relatively high, making them a good source of plant protein. Peanuts, walnuts, almonds, pistachios, and cashews have the highest protein content, followed by Brazil nuts, hazelnuts, and pine nuts. Pecans and macadamia nuts have the lowest protein content. The protein fraction decreases in roasted nuts due to the increase in the fat content. In general, for all nuts, the online threonine is the limiting amino acid. Threonine is present in nuts in the range of 25 to 40 milligrams per gram of protein compared to 44 milligrams per gram of protein in a whole egg. Brazil nuts are poorest and cashews are richest in threonine. And the tryptophan content of all nuts is quite similar and close to that of whole eggs, with the exception of macadamia nuts, which have a less tryptophan, around 8 milligrams per gram of protein than other nuts. Nuts are low in isoleucine, with a content ranging between 32 and 40 milligrams per gram of protein. This contrasts with the total isoleucine content of whole egg of 54 milligrams per gram of protein. For this amino acid, almonds show the same least amount, 32 milligrams per gram of protein, and cashews the most, 43 milligrams per gram of protein. The total amount of leucine is almost similar to that of whole eggs, around 86 milligrams per gram of protein. Pistachios and pecans have the lowest content of leucine, around 65 milligrams per gram of protein. The total carbohydrate content of nuts is lowest in walnuts, and progressively increasing amounts occur in Brazil nuts, pecans, and macadamia nuts, almonds and pine nuts, pistachios, and finally cashews. Total fat is the main fraction in nuts. The total fat content per 100 grams ranges from 44.4 grams in pistachios to 75.8 grams in macadamia nuts. Almonds may help reduce the risk of heart disease in people with type 2 diabetes, not insulin dependent. Nuts contain high levels of beneficial fats. The unsaturated fats in nuts performs a range of important functions such as supporting cell growth and protecting organs, including the heart. Also, nuts are rich in protein as an essential nutrient, and they contain a range of other nutrients that are important for physical health, including fiber, vitamins such as vitamin E, folate, thiamine, minerals such as magnesium and potassium, carotenoids, antioxidants, phytosterols. It is important to avoid salted nuts because salt may increase the risk of complications. Especially it leads to hypertension, heart problems, and all that. Top 5 nuts to contain diabetes are almonds, walnuts, cashew nuts, pistachios, and peanuts. If your idea of healthy eating was formed a few decades ago, it may be hard to shake the notion that you should avoid nuts which are high in calories and fat. But new evidence has overturned that assumption. In fact, a recent analysis of the nation's eating habits and health outcomes suggests, nation here refers to USA, that eating too few nuts and nuts seeds is associated with an increased risk of dying from cardiovascular disease or diabetes. Certain fats contained common in nuts, mono and polyunsaturated fats, and omega-3 fatty acids actually reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. Advantages of nuts are improves cholesterol profiles, prevent arrhythmias, reduce blood clotting, relax blood vessels, raise levels of glucagon like peptide 1, contribute to satiety. It's easy to grab a handful of nuts or a packet of sunflower seeds if you are buying nuts or seeds either raw or roasted. Look for those with no sodium, sugars, or no additives. If you want to try flavored nuts or seeds, try sprinkling turmeric, cinnamon, or cocoa powder on raw nuts or seeds and roasting them at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. How long they should stay in the oven depends on the size and amount of nuts or seeds you are roasting. Sunflower seeds take less time to roast than almonds do. Seeds and chopped nuts add flavor and texture to salads, sandwiches, and whole grain breakfast cereals, and even ice creams. Replacing red and processed meats with nuts can have double benefits, reducing the risk associated with eating too much meat as well as the risk linked to consuming too few nuts. The experiment with the nuts in place of meat in main dishes. You can find recipes for nut loaves and casseroles in vegetarian cookbooks and on websites. All of us have studied food pyramid and the importance of a balanced diet. Basically, we need carbohydrates, protein, fat, and fiber. There are limits for everything, so understand your body and decide what is optimal and balanced for you. It would vary from individual to individual depending on the race, gender, age, health condition, climate, lifestyle, etc. Energy requirements also vary depending on the tasks you perform in day-to-day life. Make informed decisions and lead happy, healthy, long life. Lifespan has increased, but quality of life has gone down the drain. Hence, my sincere advice is one should live for long without compromising the high quality of life. Of course, our diet should suit our pocket too. It should not be too expensive that we cannot afford. So your food habits should be optimal, balancing your body's physical requirements and your budget. Avoid junk food at any cost, like pizzas, burgers, sodas, then chips, potato chips, especially processed one like Lay's. Keep your taste buds under control. Lean meat, chicken, fish is better than red meat. Beef, mutton, and white meat, pork. Spices and herbs have immense benefits if taken in moderation. Avoid smoking, liquor, chewing tobacco, and drugs substance. Be nutty about consuming nuts, herbs, and spices daily. This particular presentation I had to mention a lot of botanical names and also some medical terms also. Otherwise the discussion is not complete. I don't know how many of you understand all that. Of course, I mentioned the common names that we know also when I mentioned the botanical names. Okay, debates, discussion on topics like this can go on forever. Anyhow, let me call it a day. We'll meet again real soon. Rest in peace and harmony. Always watch these videos with closed captions, subtitles for absolute 100% comprehension. As per my persistent recommendation, I know I rushed through to complete the presentation within 20 minutes maximum. This is a time limit I had set myself to retain the viewer's attention as a norm. I know nowadays I exceed this time limit since I make honest attempts to cover the selected topic more elaborately, including so many intricate, fine details referring a wide variety of sources, in particular Wikipedia, quite extensively. Besides, articles and books published recently. Besides, I add my own salt and pepper and masala based on my personal experiences so far in my life and also intuition, if you know what it is. Stay at home as much as possible to maintain social distancing attributed to pandemic novel COVID-19 and prolong your lifespan. Lead a healthy life. God alone can put a stop to natural, unnatural, maybe bio war, cyber war, who knows, God alone knows. Events like pandemics which may lead to apocalypse and extinction of all sentient species on earth. All the best.